also that I left Kristy, been staying in a hotel for a week. So none of that stuff is true. I'm home. I've been home. I've never left Kristy. I don't intend to leave her. I love her. I think she's great. She's been supportive of Gypsy from day one. And, you know, after Katrina, they were relocated, so we didn't know where they were. Kristy spent months online reaching out to people, seeing if they knew anything about them, and she finally did find them. So in a lot of cases, Kristy's done more than I have regarding Gypsies.
So this is Rod Blanchard, it says.
Support and her well-being. So yeah, she's made some mistakes. I have made plenty big mistakes.
Murphy, thank you. Good to see you.
We all have, I believe. You know, even Gypsy, you know, she's still making mistakes. Nobody expects any of us to be perfect, but you know, we're trying to build a family here now and hopefully progress.
Alexander, did I see you on Paranormal Con on camera? You sure did. They feature me on there all the time.
From here, I learned from my mistakes, so just wanted to get that out there. Gypsy's here now. Her kid's doing fine. I think she's still right, pretty sure. Also, about the rumors about her and Ken, you know, just want to throw a joke in there. I don't think Ken would touch Kristy with a 10-foot pole. Hi, Gypsy. Good morning. Clean your room. Love you.
Damn.
Anyway.
And by the way, y'all, this is Without a Crystal Ball on YouTube. Link is down in the description. Make sure you go show her some love.
So, yeah. All good at the Blanchard. 1 point. Later.
Hi, friends. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. Did you see that video? That was a very uncomfortable Rod Blanchard being forced to make a TikTok video to defend his wife and to try to squash rumors that he moved out and left Kristy, and to squash rumors that Gypsy and Kristy didn't have a fight, which he didn't even say if it was false. And he also tried to squash rumors that Ken wouldn't touch Kristy with a 10-foot pole. I don't know. It was just weird. Yesterday, I told you about a fight.
Oh, my goodness. Jessica, thank you.
Fight that happened.
Lindy, thank you.
Last week,
Stella,
and that Kristy and Gypsy have been fighting like mad since she moved back in with her parents, and she's been pregnant. And I told you there are some people in the family that are suspicious if Gypsy is pregnant or not. I also told you that she was supposed to be meeting with her parole officer yesterday morning to decide what would happen with her parole and whether or not she would be violated. Now, there is a TikToker that does know Gypsy from Chillicothe. She was in the same prison as her when she was, like, it was in 2016 or 2017. So it's been a minute since she's been there, but she definitely understands how the violations work. According to this former inmate, she discussed that in order for someone to be violated, they have to go to their parole officer's office, and they would be met by the parole officer and possibly a police officer if they're going to violate them. And then they would be taken to a holding facility where they would go back to some facility. And she said she will not go back to Chillicothe. Here's how she explains it.
Two things will happen. The parole officer will call her into the office, sit her down, explain what's happening, and then the police will be there ready to detain her. Or if she doesn't show up, if they cannot find her, then they issue a warrant for her arrest. Once she's back in jail, it's not up to a judge. It's not up to a prosecuting attorney. It's not up to anybody but the parole board if they want to send her back. The only way a judge gets involved is if she has a new charge that she needs to be sentenced on. The parole board can decide.
Oh, snap. Ashton, thank you for subscribing. Welcome back. Thank you.
For her to do house arrest, community service, they can decide anything. It doesn't.
Frankie, there was like 8 things that she had done that violated her parole. Like, there was all kinds of stuff. I think they're probably going to list some of them.
Automatically have to go back to prison. There's a lot of misinformation being said out there that's not correct. So I'm here to inform you guys that if she is to go back to prison, She will be in Vandalia. She is not going back to Chillicothe pregnant.
As I stated yesterday, Gypsy's had a number of different reprimands from her parole officer. And a
This
parole
part.
officer has a lot of different tools that they can use in order to add different stipulations, add more rules if necessary to keep her in line. And they will exhaust that before just putting someone back in prison, because the goal of parole is to get through parole and without going back. And the prisons are so full that they don't like to violate people for really small things. So some parole officers will and some won't. And I think when it comes to Gypsy, they're being very careful because she's under such a big microscope that I believe that if she were to go back for something really small, there would be a lot of pushback from the public, from her attorney. So in order for them to be able to violate her, in my opinion, they would have to have a pretty strong case. And she would have to have like a demonstrated pattern. And so one thing that...
That's crazy as hell. Rules for thee, not for me type stuff. Man, you know there's some dude out there or some other lady out there that like did some small thing. Boom, straight back to prison. They're sitting there like, what the hell? Because I didn't have a Lifetime television show? The hell's going on?
This former inmate did say was that if she were to try to contact her co-defendant, Nick, that could be something that they could automatically violate her for and send her back. We'll get to that in a second. In Rod's video, he stated that he was responding to claims that he had moved out, that he left Kristy, and that Gypsy and Kristy were fighting. Now, in his video, he actually doesn't deny that Kristy and Gypsy were fighting. Instead, he uses a tactic where he shifts the goalposts and says, Kristy has always loved Gypsy and has always spent all of her time and energy trying to have a good relationship with her. And she even did stuff in Hurricane Katrina and was looking for Gypsy and Dee Dee, and she's done better than even I have. So he never answered the question about the fight. Really, he was just trying to help Kristy repair her image. And I'm sure he's doing this as a gaslighting tactic to try to make it so that we're confused that this fight happened. And the fight absolutely happened, according to my sources. He also indirectly confirmed what I told you yesterday, in that Kristy is more invested in the situation than he is. Kristy is more invested in wanting to have a relationship with Gypsy than he is. And it's Kristy that is pushing all of this on him. Now, he says he just wants to be a family, and they've all made mistakes, and even Gypsy's made some mistakes. But again, not denying that the fight happened. There was something that happened. There was a fight that happened on Friday. Rod did leave the house and he was hanging out with family. I don't think he ever stayed in a hotel, and maybe he came back once everything cooled off. Regardless, things have gotten to a point where it's out of control and Gypsy's out of control. And obviously that he's saying we just want to be a family, and we just
everything's out of control.
Just want to make sure that we can do this, and we're all going to make mistakes. I feel like this was the rhetoric that I always heard from them whenever something would happen,
Amanda,
because they always fall back on the fact like mistakes are going to happen, mistakes are going to happen, mistakes are going to happen. And there's a difference between mistakes are going to happen and actually being accountable to the mistakes that happen and changing what you're doing. And that's the problem with Gypsy, is that she doesn't change what she does. So what I noticed in the 7 months of her release that I maintained contact with them was that Gypsy was consistently making mistakes, not learning from mistakes, causing chaos within the family. And
oh, Lord. Mitzi RN, thank you so much. Does this lady know them personally? It sounds like she knows them personally. I don't know any of these people, y'all. We started watching these videos yesterday, so I have I didn't even know who Ken was until about 45 minutes ago.
How dare you?
I'm just kidding. It's about 2 hours. But let's keep going. Let's keep it going.
then the family was enabling her by basically trying to say, well, she doesn't know any better. She doesn't know this. She doesn't understand that. She had 8.5 years in prison incarcerated to do better, to learn, and to grow. Regardless if she doesn't have experience out here in the real world, she had 8.5 years in prison to try to change her ways. Okay. And she didn't. And she grew up with a mother that taught her criminal behavior, and she doesn't want to change that behavior at all. So the way that the former inmate explained it was that Gypsy would have to go meet with a parole officer, and there would be a police officer there if they were going to make the decision to violate her. What I can tell you, at least from what I spoke to my sources about today, was that Gypsy was supposed to go to the parole office yesterday at 9 a.m. And rather than going to the parole office, she, according to my sources, allegedly claimed that she was having pain, cramping, and bleeding, vaginal bleeding.
Oh my goodness.
And fears that she was miscarrying, and that she called the PO and told them that she had to go to the hospital because she needed to get checked out to see if she was having a miscarriage. It's interesting that she would use a medical emergency to try to get out of something, given that her history is to use medical emergencies to get attention and to get what she wants. Now, she's not going to get money by claiming this medical emergency, but she would be able to delay the inevitable of meeting with her parole officer. So as you noted, Rod says Gypsy's still pregnant. At least I think she's still pregnant. I don't know if she had a miscarriage. I don't know if she was even pregnant. I don't know if any of it. But what my sources say is she didn't meet with her PO yesterday. She instead went to the hospital and claimed she was having
holy macaroni
a miscarriage, and she was going to blame all of the stress from everyone online and all the behavior from her family and all the fighting for the reason. And she was going to blame her family for everything, because Gypsy will never acknowledge that it's her own behavior that people are responding to that are causing the chaos. She will never acknowledge that she is the origin of the chaos and creating the chaos. So I think the reason why Gypsy's
man in the mirror
afraid of meeting with her parole officer is because she has, I believe, been trying to contact Nicholas Godejohn. And the reason why I believe this is because
oh damn, she's trying to reach out to him?
Because recently her friend Bri
Megan, yeah, it's a bunch of different YouTube videos,
who is supposedly her best friend, was live on TikTok. And on her live, Bri brought on Nicholas Godejohn's uncle, David, who is also autistic and just like Nick, to speak to him about Nick's case. Bri made a point on the live, or she told Gypsy not to come on to this live and not to participate in the chat. That doesn't matter. No one in Gypsy's life should be having any contact with anybody on Nicholas Godejohn's side, because it can be viewed by the probation and parole as a violation of her trying to have third party contact to pass information. Bri almost positively is going to share any and all information she has about Nicholas with Gypsy, and Bri is likely going to share any and all information with David, and David is likely to share that with Nick. Gypsy, in my opinion, is very worried that Nick is going to tell the truth, because he now has an account that is called NPG Cornerstone, and this is an account where they're debunking a lot of the myths about his case, and he plans to share the truth, or share his side or share his information, and Gypsy doesn't want that out there. And why does she not want that out there? So I talked to an inmate that was in the prison with Gypsy, and you can take this for what it's worth, but she told me that in prison, Gypsy told other inmates that she helped Nick kill Dee Dee, that she was more involved than she let on, that
You what? What? Isn't there like microphones everywhere? We see like every single case that we talk about. They're like, oh, the jailhouse informant, he had a microphone.
She actually
Man, that'd be crazy as hell, wouldn't it?
allegedly stabbed her mother, and she was part of it, and that she has been lying the entire time that she hid in the bathroom and hid, closing her hands over her ears. I think she knows that he
What?
How dare you?
knows that too, because obviously she
Claudia,
was in the
thank
room
you.
with him. And if anyone
Thank
looks at those
you.
crime scene photos, it's obvious that this was a crime of rage. And Nick would not have had that kind of rage for a woman he had never met. So I believe that Gypsy doesn't want him to leak that, even though Gypsy has told so many people. I'm telling
Stacia, Crooked Asia, thank you.
you, Gypsy has told inmates, friends, and family that she helped. So there's people
Damn.
allegedly in her family that know that Gypsy was culpable in this and is completely lying to the public, and it's all to protect her image and to make her look like the victim. Meanwhile, her co-defendant
Jesse, thank you.
is rotting in prison on a first-degree charge, and he can never be paroled, and Gypsy is doing nothing to help him get out or even try to help him get a new trial. Gypsy could absolutely help by providing new evidence to the prosecutors in his case to help him get a reduced sentence. She could absolutely help.
And she couldn't be recharged because she was already found guilty, right? I'm pretty sure she can't be recharged unless it's like a new crime.
But Gypsy won't help because even though there's this law about double jeopardy, Gypsy is
Yes.
in a very precarious situation. Gypsy's crime involved
Man, the screenshots that she uses are just like, she's doing that on purpose. Why is she going to find that picture and be like, let me put this up there?
use of the internet to plan and scheme and conspire over this crime. Gypsy's offender or co-defendant crossed state lines, and then once this unaliving took place, she crossed state lines with him. This case could easily become a federal trial because they used the internet. So the same way if you get money laundering with the federal government, they do money laundering as a federal crime when you use the internet. If you're planning an unaliving using the internet, it can become a federal crime because she was communicating with someone out of state, and 2 different states were involved in this case. She's well aware.
Oh, snap. Oh, damn. That's when you start hearing that.
Aware that in Missouri, she can't be tried, but anyone in her family, any one of her friends, Nick, could flip and work with the FBI and tell them the truth. And if the FBI feels like because she lied and because she only got a 10-year sentence and there's a feeling like she's a danger, she could easily be tried on the federal level for the crime. There's a loophole that allows. So under the current laws in the United States, a defendant can be found guilty in state court, and then federal prosecutors whose criminal statutes carry heavier sentences than the state can pursue a second case and actually substitute their sentence judgment for that of the state. So if she is wanting to keep the truth from coming out and doesn't want to get a federal charge of unaliving, she's going to want to press hard to make sure that he never opens his mouth. Because yes, she served her 10-year sentence with the state, but the feds can come in at any time because there's no statute of limitations for unaliving.
For taking someone's life, yep.
Whether it's federal or state. And the unaliving statute in the United States is that it can involve crossing state lines, using state to state like correspondence, using the internet to plan it, conspire, order things, purchase things, do research. So she has.
Oh man, making Facebook accounts to talk about it.
All of these trails of evidence of all the communications she has with Nick, which is outlining exactly what they're going to do. And then he comes from another state, which she pays for him to come, which is, again, federal. So she knows.
Mm-mm. And in a couple of different ways.
Knows that even though she's out of, the state can't retry her, the feds can. And if you're wondering if this happens, it does. R. Kelly, who had trafficking cases.
Oh, it's the remix to Ignition, Martin fresh out the kitchen.
In multiple states, as well as federal trafficking cases, has charges and convictions both state and federally. So if there's new evidence that comes out and they find out, hey, she lied and she was more culpable in this and she is a danger to society, and Nick cooperates and she ends up spilling, she can go to prison. So Gypsy has been very desperate since her release to make sure that she keeps Nick in her clutches so that he doesn't turn on her. Because Nick knows what happened, and he knows that he is still going along with her story about what happened that night. That isn't the truth. With that said, I've spoken to numerous people who are friends, who are inmates, who were former friends and family, that all believe that Gypsy is still dangerous, that her sentence wasn't enough, that because of her manipulation and her lies, she hasn't changed and she hasn't reformed in any capacity. And now that people are being given new information about what she allegedly wasn't involved in, there's suspicions that she's nervous that not only she can go back for a violation with Nick, but that potentially new charges could be added for other crimes. Gypsy, and this is all like hypothetical, but I just want to help you understand why she's so desperate to keep him quiet. And so Bri's trying to pretend like it wasn't third party to third party, but it's very clear prosecutors and the parole board and the state understand how vulnerable Nick is to Gypsy, and they want to make sure that he doesn't have any contact with her whatsoever to protect him. Nick can reform away from her, and he can actually do a lot better away from her. But under her spell, he easily falls underneath her influence. And
her spell.
Look at what he did when he fell under her influence the first time.
Right? Mama rolling that body, got every man in here wishing, now sipping on coke and rum like, so what, I'm drunk.
So right now, all of the stuff that you're seeing online, the response from Rod, the posts by Kristy, and Gypsy posting about her pregnancy, and then she literally deleted her post about the mango. The mango post is gone.
The mango? What the fuck? What is up about the mango?
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Somebody tell me the mango story.
It doesn't exist anymore. She removed it from her.
They got food everywhere as if the party was catered. Because of mangoes?
Their profile feed. She posted something in her stories about being 15 weeks and 6 days. But all of this is a distraction to the reality of what's actually happening behind the scenes. And that is that Gypsy is continuing.
The size of her baby was a mango? Oh, I see what you're saying.
To violate. Gypsy is continuing to break rules. Gypsy is trying to find very unique ways to speak to her co-defendant. Gypsy has her best friend trying to communicate with his uncle. None of that looks good for her. Nope. And when she's finally told that she needs to come in to speak to her parole officer, and as you heard the other inmates say, when they're going into the office to have a meeting, she could be violated right there, and the police could detain her immediately. And she doesn't want that. There's a lot of options that the parole board can put in place, from house arrest to 60 days to 90 days to 100 days to having to complete the whole sentence to adding completely new charges for other crimes that they might have found out that she committed. The only way it would go to actually a judge is if she commits a new crime and is charged with a new crime. And that, at this point, I know nothing about. But it's evident she doesn't want Nick to talk. And so what does she do? She fakes a medical emergency and says she has a miscarriage.
That's crazy. So, Gigi, I didn't get him cut. It just this Just growing it out.
And then her dad
But thanks.
makes a video and says, well, she's still pregnant. At least I think she's still pregnant. And then he has to show everyone that Gypsy is at the house, not arrested. But what is Gypsy doing? Laying in bed in the middle of the afternoon. None of this is what she should be doing. Gypsy's supposed to have a job. She's supposed to be working. She's
Right? Bounce, 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 bounce.
not supposed to be just laying around and doing nothing and making nothing of her life. Gypsy, this is her
Oh, damn.
pattern, though. She has no motivation to do anything. She spent her life being spoiled by her mother, who gave her gifts and free stuff and got her tons of trips for being sick. And Gypsy has no work ethic. She just wants people to hand her stuff. And as inmates have said, she slept her way through prison, and now she's going to sleep her way through parole, I guess. And she's going to try to fake a miscarriage in order to not meet with her parole officer to find out if she actually has to go back to prison or if they're going to let her off the hook again. But either way,
Whoa.
Gypsy has been so sloppy in all of this. You know, she says, I don't want to be anything like my mother. And the irony here is that Dee Dee was actually a better con, a way better con than Gypsy was, because she was way more under the radar than Gypsy. And another thing is that Dee Dee never hurt anyone to the extent that they ended their lives or that their life was ended. So Gypsy
No, taking money from people and taking houses and things from people that actually could use it as hurting people.
is not as good of a con as her mom, but she's actually more dangerous than her mom because of what she did to her mom. And I recognize that people around the
Courtney, thank you. Appreciate
family are probably scared, and I recognize that friends are probably scared, and I recognize that people are watching this all play out and they're like horrified. But Gypsy needs to be held accountable, and she needs to stop having people enable her. And if Rod wants his martyr wife to look like the one that cares more, his martyr wife is enabling Gypsy right into another prison sentence. The family is enabling her right into another prison sentence. Gypsy probably should have been released to a halfway house where she could have had programs, outpatient therapy, inpatient therapy, had structure, jobs, all of that. She would be doing so much better than currently with a household that wants to help her cover for her bad behavior. And I don't think everyone in the family feels that way. And I certainly don't think that this cover-up can last forever. But Nick deserves a new trial, and Gypsy needs to stay away from him.
Thanks for the follows.
And if it's true that she's trying to contact him, her PO should violate her. And she
Every single picture of Nick, he looks completely different. Like, not even just like, oh, he grew his hair out, or oh, this. He looks like a completely different person.
should go back to prison.
Jess, thank you, Amanda. Thank you. Thanks for the donuts, y'all.
But that's just my opinion. So what are your thoughts? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to
It's crazy as hell.
give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video.